All right, so section 3.4 is the order of operations with square roots, fractions, and evaluating expressions. So I want you to note that the order of operations here, they're the same order of operations that we did back in section 1.9. So we're still going to do all the operations within the parentheses, brackets, or other grouping symbols like fraction bars. We're always going to start with the innermost set first. We're going to evaluate any expressions that have exponents, and then we're going to do multiplication division. Again, just a quick reminder that we need to go in order from left to right. And the same thing when it comes to adding and subtracting. We need to go in order from left to right. Okay, so let's take a look at the first problem that we have here. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit right there. All right. So the first thing I want you to notice, in this first problem, we do not have any parentheses. So I'm going to go directly to step number 2, and we're going to deal with anything that has an exponent, okay? We're going to deal with our exponents. Now, the one thing I want to mention is that square root symbols, we're going to think of those as exponents. So exponents or square roots, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and simplify that. So I'm going to write out the entire problem, 64 divided by, well, the square root of 64 is 8 times 2 plus 4. Okay, so now we did step number 2. We simplified our exponents and our square roots. Now we're going to go to step number 3. We have to multiply or divide in order from left to right. Well, the first thing that I see here, let me grab a different color. Here we go. The first thing that I see here is division. So let's do that. 64 divided by 8 is 8 times 2 plus 4. Then we're going to multiply. 8 times 2 is 16. And finally, 16 plus 4 leaves us with 20. Okay. Let's try the next problem. Again, I don't have any parentheses, but we do have square roots. So let's go ahead and go directly to step number 2. Well, the square root of 25 is 5, plus 2 times the square root of 81 is 9. Okay. So 3 times 5 is going to leave us with 15. 2 times 9 is going to leave us with 18. And finally, when we add those two together, that should leave us with 33, right? Okie. So let's take a look at the third problem that we have here. Again, I don't have any parentheses, but I do have square roots. So we're going to write it out. 4 times, well, the square root of 49 is 7, minus 0 divided by the square root of 100 is 10. Okay. All right. Now we do have multiplying and dividing. The first thing I see is multiplying. So let's go ahead and do that first. 4 times 7 is going to give us 28. Minus, I still have to do my division here. 0 divided by 10, if you remember, is 0. And so finally, 28 minus 0 is still 28. Okay. All right. So, taking a look at the next problem that I have here. Remember, when we have fraction bars, we can think about, let's simplify the top, and then let's go back and simplify the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's simplify the top. Okay. So square root of 9 is 3. 9 squared means 9 times 9, which is 81. Okay. Don't need that big of a fraction bar. Equals 3 plus 81 is 84. Okay. Now let's come back and let's do the bottom. So we do have parentheses here. So first thing is 10 minus 6 is 4. Minus, let me go ahead and do the 2 squared here, is also 4 minus 1. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the next step, which is to multiply. So 3 times 4 is going to give me 12. Minus 4 minus 1, okay. Well, 12 minus 4 is 8 minus 1, okay. And 8 minus 1 is what, 7? And then now, if we just divide, what is 84 divided by 7? we should come up with 12. Okay. Alrighty. So now let's take a look at the next problem that we have here. Okay. So again, I notice in this problem here, I don't have any parentheses, but I do have both square roots and I also have exponents. So let's take care of the first one. Let's see, square root of 100 is 10. Plus, square root of 4 is 2. 3 to the third. Remember what 3 to the third means. It means 3 times 3 times 3. Okay. It's supposed to be a plus right there. Let's fix that. There we go. Okay, plus. Oops. Why is that not wanting to? There we go. And a little, oops. A little delay here. Let's see. Plus, okay, 3 to the third is going to give us 27 times 2 minus 20. Okay, so remember, after we've taken care of our square roots and our exponents, we now need to go to multiplying and dividing. So the only multiplying we really have is this piece right here. So I'm going to leave the rest of this alone. 10 plus 2 plus, let's see, 27 times 2 is 54 minus 20. Okay. Now, if you notice these here, we're just going to add those numbers together. Okay. So 10 plus 2 is 12. 12 plus 54 should be something like 66 minus 20. And 66 minus 20 is just 46. Okay. All right. So as you can see, the problems are getting a little bit more complex. Let's take a look, see what we can do with this one here. Again, I'm going to try to go as slow as I can, one step at a time, right? Okay, so remember, we have to do what's on the inside of the parentheses first. Okay, so what we're going to do. We're going to do this in pieces, okay? I'm going to leave this piece alone for right now. 169, okay? Divided by, let's see, 20 minus 7, I know is 13. Plus 2 to the 5th, I'm going to go slow here, okay? Minus. Now, since this is another sort of part separate in the sense that it's not connected to this part, I'm going to go ahead and do those square roots on the inside. I know the square root of 4 is 2. I know the square root of 9 is 3 squared, okay? So now let's come back to this piece over here. All right, let's see. Square root of 169 is going to be 13 divided by 13 plus 2 to the 5th power. So remember, 2 to the 5th power, in case you're, let me see if my calculator is going to work here. Here we go. So 2 times 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, hit equals, is going to give us 32, okay? So here we go, 32. Okay, minus, let's see, 2 plus 3 I already know is 5 squared. Okay. All right, so now let's keep going. Let's see, 13 plus 13, or 13 divided by 13, I'm sorry, it's going to give me 1 plus 32, that's in my brackets, okay, minus 5 squared I already know is, 25. 1 plus 32 should give me 33, and 33 minus 25 is a whole of 8. Okay. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and try this next one, and then we can move on to order of operations with fractions, okay? So let's take a look here. Again, if you notice here, this 25 is sort of on its, or 29, I'm sorry, is sort of on its own. So I don't want to forget that, okay? Minus. Okay, remember, we have to work our way from the inside out, okay? So I'm going to leave this 5 alone. I'm going to leave this 3 alone. It's a 3, okay? 8 times. Now, inside here, I can't subtract those until I take the square root of 64. So that's going to be 10 minus the square root of 64 is 8. Okay. Minus 50. Okay. So 29 minus 5, 3. Okay, here's my 8 times, let's see, 10 minus 8 is 2. Okay, minus 50. Okay, 29 minus 5 plus 3 times, let's see, 8 times 2 is what, 16? Minus 50. Okay. And so I'm going to just move over here where I got some more room. 29. Oops. Oh, come on. There we go. 29 minus, let's see, 5 plus, let's see, 3 times 16. Again, if I grab my calculator right here, 3 times 16, 48. Okay. So that's going to give me, oops, 48 minus 50. Okay. I'm almost done. 29. Let's see. 5 plus 48 should be 53. Oh, come on. 53 minus 50. And 53 minus 50 is just 3. So 29 minus 3 is a total of 26. Okay. Kind of a long problem. Notice, remember what we said about that 29? It was kind of all the way on its own. We didn't actually do anything with the number, 29 till we got to the end, right? Okay. Okie dokie. So now let's try this next one here. Remember, order of operations, parentheses, I don't have them. Exponents, I don't have them. Multiplying and dividing, that we do. Okay, so we're going to leave this 1/5 alone for right now. Remember how we multiply fractions? We multiply straight across. That's going to give me 1 over 12, right? Okay, so now I need to add those two fractions together. Again, you can always go back and get your multiplication table, right? So let me pause this for one quick second so I can get my multiplication table. Okay, so here's my multiplication table, and again, between 5 and 12, the first number that we should both have in common would be 60, right? So 60 is going to be my common denominator. Let's see, 60 and 60. So we're multiplying this guy by 12, so we got to do that by 12, that's a 12. Multiplying this one by 5, so we got to do that one by 5, that's a 5. There's a plus in the middle. And so now we just end up with 17 over 60, right? Okay. Alrighty. Let's take a look here at the next one. 7/8 divided by 1/4 times 1/7. Again, remember, parentheses, I don't have them. Exponents, I don't have them. Multiplying and dividing, I do. Now remember, I have to go in order from left to right. So the first thing I see is the division. So let's write this out. 7/8. Remember how we divide. We take the division, change it to multiplication. Write that as 4 over 1 times 1 over 7, right? Okay, so now I'm going to do this piece here first. So if you recall, when we're going to multiply fractions, we're going to multiply straight across, but we can always reduce numbers on the top with numbers on the bottom. So 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 8 twice. So 7 times 1 will give me 7. 2 times 1 will give me 2 times 1 over 7. Again, I'm multiplying a second time. I can divide both of these by 7, so 7 goes into 7 once, and 7 goes into 7 once. So when I multiply straight across, 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. Okay. Alrighty. Taking a look at the next problem that I have here. Again, first thing I notice, I don't have any parentheses, I don't have any exponents, but I do have multiplying and adding. So let's go ahead and multiply these guys together. So 5 times 1 is going to give me 5. 9 times 2 is going to give me 18. Okay. Plus, now I'm going to multiply these guys together. I'm going to multiply them straight across before I do any reducing, and I want to explain why I want to do that. So 2 times 5 is going to give me 10. 3 times 6 is going to give me 18. So the reason why I didn't really want to reduce, let's see, where are they? The 2 and the 6 is because, remember, in order for me to add fractions, I need to have a common denominator. And right now, that's exactly what we have, right? We have a common denominator. So we know we're going to have an 18 on the bottom. 5 and 10 is going to give us a 15 on the top. We can divide both those numbers by 3, and we end up with 5 over 6. Okay. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and do the same thing in the next problem. So we're going to multiply those two fractions together. It's going to give me 7 over 20 plus, I'm going to go ahead and multiply those two fractions together. That's going to give me 9 over 20. Oops, there we go. And again, I already have a common denominator, so I know my denominator is going to be 20. 7 plus 9 should give me something like 16. Now we can reduce those fractions. We can divide them both by 4. So 4 goes into 16 4. 4 goes into 20 5 times, right? Okay. So the last part here in 3.4 talks about how to evaluate expressions, okay? So when we're evaluating expressions, what I usually call these problems here, I call them plug and chug. Chug, not chewy. Plug and chug, because that's exactly what we're going to do. Everywhere we have an x, we're going to plug in this case, the number 6, and everywhere we have a y, in this case, we're going to plug in the number 3. Okay, so let's do our plug part. 2, and then parentheses, where the x was, 6. Minus, where the y was, 3. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and do order of operations. I got to do my parentheses first. So 6 minus 3 is, oops, there we go, 2. 6 minus 3 is going to give me 3. 2 times 3 is 6. And we're done. Okay. All right, we're going to do the same thing for this next problem, except everywhere we have an x, we're going to plug in a 35, and everywhere we have a y, we're going to plug in a 5. All right, so let's see. 35 minus 5 times y is the number 5, all divided by y, which is also the number 5. Okay. So again, I'm going to take care of the top first. So let's see. 35 minus 5 times 5 is 25, all over 5. Let's see. 35 minus 25 should give me a total of 10 over 5. And 10 divided by 5 is just 2, right? Good, very good. Okay. So for the next problem here, or the next couple of problems anyway, again, we're going to evaluate, so we're going to do our plug and chug, right? So plug and chug, okay? And everywhere we have an x, we're going to plug in a 2. Everywhere we have a y, we're going to plug in a 5. And everywhere we have a z, we're going to plug in a 3. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to go 2 plus 2 times y, which is 5, all divided by 3. Okay, so let's take care of the top first. 2 plus 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, 2 plus 10 is 12. Now the bottom is just 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4, right? Okay. Alrighty. So for the next one here, it says 2y minus 2 over x, okay? So again, I don't want to forget here that y is 5 and x is 2. So 2, y is 5, and x is 2. Okay. So let's take care of the top first. 2 times 5 is 10 minus 2. 10 minus 2 is 8. The bottom is 2. 8 divided by 2, also 4, right? Okay. And just a couple more. Okay, 5x over y minus 10 over y. Okay, so let me see again. What was x? X is 2 and y is 5. Okay, x is 2 and y is 5. X is 2, oops, and y we said was, let's see, there we go. Y we said was 5, okay. So let's see, 5 times 2 is 10 over 5 minus 10 over 5. Let's see, 10 divided by 5 is 2. minus 10 divided by 5 is 2. That's going to give us 0, right? Okay. All right, we said x was 2 and y was 5. X is 2 and y is 5 and x is 2. Okay. So let's take care of the top part. 7 times 2 is 14. 2 times 5 is 10. That's 24. Let's see. 3 times 2 is 6. 24 divided by 6 is just 4. Right? Okay. So again, one more time, we said x was 2, y is 5, and z is 3. X is 2, y is 5, and z was 3, right? So 2 plus, let's see, 5 times 5 is 25, minus 3. So 2 plus 25 should give me a total of 27. And finally, 27 minus 3 is just 24, right? And that, my friends, is section 3.4.